who has taken the time to create this platform for creatives to come together. I'd like to invite Shola Adesoye, is a servant overseer of the Lighthouse Ministries International and senior pastor at the Lighthouse Church, Abuja. He's a mentor to many and is passionate about his country, Nigeria, nation building and raising the next generation for impact and influence in the earth. The Conversation, an online talk show he hosts bi-monthly, is one of the platforms from which this finds expression. He is also the founder of the Fulcrum iLab, an IT hub where young people can come in to learn and find creative expressions. We had a very successful outing just a couple of months ago. Pastor Shola is an architect currently pursuing his PhD and a consummate businessman. He is married to Comfort Adesoye, also an architect, and a quintessential cake and sugar craft professional, and together they have 3 amazing children. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite Pastor Shola Adesoye. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up. You can do better than that.
Well, you may all be seated. It'll be good if you loosen up a bit. Some of you are just so, I don't know, it's like you're afraid. So maybe we'll do it this way. Just stand up from where you are and go knock on somebody's door. What that means is say hello to somebody and just find out about them. What, you know, find out their name, what's your name, and what do you do? Maybe you should ask them, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? I know, absolutely. You'll be amazed at who you just get to connect with. See, now everyone is connecting so well. All right, you may be seated. Just be seated and find a seat wherever you can find one. And let's get this rolling this morning. It's so good to be here, honestly, to jumpstart something that I am very confident is going to change your life in ways you possibly cannot even imagine. And it's good to have every one of you here. We're starting a little slower than we thought today. Sometimes it takes people time to trickle in, but we just wanted to have a good number before we would start. My time here is going to be very brief, and part of my assignment is just to introduce you to what we're here about. And then I'll be bringing up our first facilitator for this morning session. And trust me, you know, I feel like a pilot who would be comfortable to say, fasten your seatbelt. By the time we're done in these 3 days, believe me, your head is going to be on fire. Trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me. So, good to have you all here. Really great to have everybody here this morning. We're witnessing a major cultural revolution that's having an incredible impact on society. And yet, very few people seem to understand what is really going on in our world today, especially with the surging wave of social change that is taking place. More than a decade ago, educator Neil Postman described the ascendancy of the age of television and the decline of the age of print as the most significant cultural fact of the second half of the 20th century. Today, that opinion is greatly outdated. Technology, which has always been driven by profit goals, involves advertising intended to sell products to its consumers. Social media, however, has made the consumer the product in the form of our information, data, online usage, and engagement in the various social media spaces, which is then sold to advertisers for huge profits by the likes of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and others. According to tech psychologist Jim Taylor, the commoditization of our attention has produced a new field of computer science called persuasive technology, in which the big tech companies spend billions of dollars a year aimed at devising ways to hook us on their particular platform and literally change our values, attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, and habits, all intended to increase profit for their shareholders with little regard to whether it is healthy for us or beneficial to our society. He further says that there's a growing body of evidence that technology can impact how we feel about ourselves, how we view ourselves, what we want and buy, our political views, and much more, in some ways for the good, but in many ways for the bad. The challenge with technology's influence on who we become is that the influencers are often hidden or embedded in the guise of fun, connecting with others, and social good, and the effects are insidious, cumulative, and compounding. Knowing the power of social media technology, it has therefore become critical for an army of creatives to be nurtured who will occupy spaces, releasing their creativity through content evolution and shaping and advancing the right values and culture in a world that is fast losing definition. We also must not ignore the potential of the creative economy. Creativity is a term coined by British author, or the creative economy is a term coined by British author John Hawkins in 2001. The term applies to any field that involves using creativity to innovate or solve problems. While that includes categories like music, painting, video games, etc., it also involves research and development, cultural goods and services, the media, software development, and even entrepreneurship. The creative economy is actually one of the fastest growing global industries today. It contributes $2.2 trillion to the world's economy, constituting currently 3% of global GDP. A digital world has created an opportunity for more thoughtful businesses to boom. In today's digital world, businesses don't just need people who are skilled at completing tasks or competent in technology. They need people who can use their technical knowledge and imagination to solve complex problems in a unique way. These people are called creatives. And their significance in the world is becoming more and more prominent. The industries in which creative people can pursue careers are also expanding, ranging from marketing to design, to more traditional fields such as arts, crafts, and advertisement. It is our intention in creating this platform and summit to inspire, incubate, and stimulate the God-given expressions of creativity that reside on the inside of thousands who will go forward to build something, solve a problem, create content, and shape the future of society. As partners and guides determined to see you find your place in a rapidly evolving world, we created the Fulcrum iLab as a tech platform for developing a tech community and hosted our first Techpreneur Bootcamp in the month of August in partnership with Microsoft, the Tribe, and the Harris Foundation. To further deepen our contributions to our community, we also saw the need to develop a platform to provide leverage for a growing community and population of creatives seeking guidance and mentoring. And today marks the beginning of that amazing journey with you. I want to appreciate all our facilitators, Kunle Idowu, who is coming in to be a part of this meeting, Kunle Shorian, who resides in Dallas, Texas, and is going to be here. He's actually in the city right now and is going to be with us. Wale Adenuga, who flew in from Lagos this morning to be with us. And right now he resides in the UK, so he's heading out back to the UK tomorrow. Kemi Adesoye, who is flying in from Lagos, and I'm proud to say that she's my sister, younger sister, but she's going to be in. David Ayeni, who flew in from the UK as well to be here. Chidera Peters, who is also going to be joining us from the UK. Patrick Otoro, who's going to be joining us as well. Wilson Otobo. And I want to appreciate all of them for accepting to be a part of this journey. So you can mark this date and these 3 days that you're going to have amazing guides that are going to help you navigate the course and find your bearing as a creative. I want to wish every one of you a great learning and impactful experience as I officially open the International Creative Summit Abuja 2022. I thought you'd give a resounding applause and shout. It gives me great joy to invite to speak to us. Our first facilitator for this event is a man that I have come to know and come to appreciate and come to love. I mean, we're brothers from different mothers. That's just the way that I like to describe it. A few weeks ago, I was in the UK, and we had lunch together, and we were just sharing, just about the future and what the future portends and what the future holds. And believe me, you need to hear what he has to say. He's going to be speaking on the topic, the 21st century church and the world of entertainment. And as much as it is focused on the church, I believe that you'll be able to navigate and find bearing in different ways and be able to use these tools, because the world we once knew is no longer the world that we're experiencing. So, singer, songwriter, facilitator of diverse platforms, and he's holding and hosting a similar platform in the month of November. And I'm sure that he's going to talk about it so that every one of you as well can join. Let's welcome Wale Adenuga.
Pastor Wale Adenuga is a songwriter, social entrepreneur, public speaker, and pastor. He is also the Chief Responsibility Officer of Unbox 2.0, where he convenes the Unbox conferences, a series of transforming learning experiences aimed at creatives, working professionals, entrepreneurs, church workers, and different audiences. He is passionate about making a difference in the lives of children who are suffering because of the odds and inequities stacked against them. He does through Green Worship, a regular annual concert featuring various artists, which has raised millions of naira for children. Green Worship is powered by Worship for Change, a non-governmental organization he set up to create awareness and support for indigenous children, orphans, and children with special needs. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Wale Adenuga.
Good morning. Please be seated. Please be seated. Thank you, Pastor Shola, for having me here today. And it's good to meet my friends, David, Pastor Joe, and everyone else. Thank you so much. Please clap for yourselves for being here on a Thursday morning. Pastor, I thank you for this investment you're making. The truth is, the results of this kind of investments you would not know. You not know today, you might not even know tomorrow, but those results would come forth. Amen. And our country, our community will be better off for it. In Jesus' name. So I'll be giving this topic to talk about the 21st century church and the world of entertainment. So let's move to the next slide. Now, I'm sure you've heard about these 7 mountains, 7 mountains of influence: religion, family, education, business, government, arts and entertainment, and media. Okay, so that's something that we talk a lot about in this time, that we talk a lot about in church. And I really want to, I started to look at all these mountains and I'm asking myself, okay, so how well has the church done in all of this? Okay, so religion, that's a given. We're very religious. Abi? Abi? So I need the response. So we're very religious. No, even though that religion can be questionable. Like somebody said years ago, that religion in Nigeria is like 2 miles wide but 1 inch deep. When you think in terms of impact, and it's reflecting. I was talking to Pastor the other day in the UK. It's reflecting even in a lot of the people who have jackpot from Nigeria to come to London. Some of them are not going to church anymore. You know why they're not going to church? Because there's nothing to pray for again. Yes, now. They can find their wives on eharmony.com. There's no NEPA, so there's light. You understand? So, anyway, but that's not what we're talking about today. So, religion, family. You have to ask yourself, how well are we doing with family? Education, how well is the church doing with family? Even that in itself, there's some challenges there. Education, maybe the church has done quite a bit, especially when we look at the established churches, the Anglican churches, Catholic churches. They're doing quite a great job. Covenant, Winners Chapel has done well with universities and all of that. Business, well, government, not so sure. Just do it like this. Arts and entertainment, that's where the big question is. Media, there's a big question there as well. Let's go to the next slide. Now, so we have to start with why. I mean, if you've been listening to someone like Simon Sinek, he has a book called, Start With Why. So why are we talking about even this topic that we're talking about today, or those 7 mountains? It's to bring to bear the influence of Christ and his kingdom, and that he will be glorified in all things. And I think Pastor alluded to that in the presentation that he made a couple of minutes ago. Because there's so much media, there's so much stuff out there, right? We have so many influencers who come out and just post stuff. A guy has 2 million followers, he posts. I mean, the other day there was I'm not going to mention his name, there's some particular guy who's a big time producer in Nigeria, and he came out with this post, of one, I can't even say what the video was all about. And my wife showed it to me. And, first of all, a lot of this content, you don't go out of your way to go and look for them. Okay? So you're scrolling and you just see it. And the thing was, it was the people who are commenting on it that actually should, because there were lots of Christians who are commenting. You see, if I saw it, I would just go past. I'm not going to say anything. Or I'll just say, I don't have a relationship with the guy, so it's not in my place to do anything. But people were Christians that you thought that would say something. Or they were saying, now wow, And we have all of these things. So the question is, what are we doing to counteract those kind of things? Or maybe it's not even to counteract. What are the things that we're even doing to initiate? We're going to talk a bit about that. So let's go to the next slide. One of the things I realized about church is that we consume a lot. And let me prove this to you. So let's look at who is the highest, Christian influencer maybe let's look at our gospel artists. So we look at someone like Sinach or Nathaniel Bassey. I think Nathaniel has like maybe 2 million followers or so, or maybe 2.4 million followers on Instagram. And let's look at someone like Davido. Last time I checked, 20-something million. Now this is really what is happening. Christians are following Davido, but other people are not following Nathaniel Bassey. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? There are lots of Christians who are following Davido, who are following. And the truth of the matter is that, life has really changed in terms of perspective. You see, because if Davido was alive 20 years ago, there'll probably be no Christian following him. Do you understand? Because there was something that we used to say when we got born again. We used to call it on-bear music. There's nothing like that today. In fact, we are belling to the music. Do you understand? If we don't take time, one worship leader will come here now and say, go, lo, lo, lo. Do you understand? Because, and that's because of the intensity of social media. Do you understand what I'm saying? Back in the day, you really had to go out of your way to listen to music. You had your Walkman and all of that. And you had to do it on demand because you had to be buying battery. But today, it's everywhere. Praise God. So the church consumes a lot of media. And then we also judge a lot. So you see somebody do this, the church is always judging. Oh, that is bad, that is bad. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the thing that we are creating? What are we creating? What content are we putting out there? Let's move to the next slide. Now, one of the things that I've seen is that the church is always shutting our eyes. Go to the next slide, please. We're shutting our eyes. But one of the things I want to say is that shutting your eyes, ignoring what is happening around, does not diminish the impact and import of entertainment. Does that make sense? Okay, and I'm going to give you a couple of, because we're always, so a couple of years ago, we heard of a popular denomination who said TV was bad. Now, years later, that has been recanted. Do you understand? The next thing, during pandemic, we heard about how churches came against 5G. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So, sometimes we're so late to get behind something that God created that we could use. Because one of the things you have to understand is technology is innocent. Technology on its own is innocent. It's how you put it to use. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. Does that make sense? So let's move on. So while we shut our eyes, move to the next slide. While we shut our eyes, DSTV, for instance, spent 4.3 billion naira on BB Nigeria in 2021. Just think about that amount of money. 4.3. I don't know how much they spent on this last one. In 2020, during the lockdown, while the church was floundering around trying to get our access, they spent 3.5 billion naira on BB Nigeria lockdown version. I'm not even going to ask whether you watch it or not. All right? Move on. Let's move to the next slide. Now, how many of you know this song? You see, let me say something. And this is a challenge to people who, Christian songwriters. Please, when you write song, let your song be sweet. You see, because one of the things I'm starting to realize with all of these guys that are coming out with songs, man, their songs are sweet. They are sweet. This Peru song is sweet. There's one I've listened for. No, I have to go and watch it. We never see you coming. Ashake and who now? Fireboy. You'll be doing as if you don't. You'll now be doing as if you don't know what I'm talking about. Listen, this song is sweet. Buga is sweet. Is it not sweet? So, rule of thumb, when you are going to write a song, let the song be sweet. It has to be sweet. You can't just write, and you see, you have to learn from God, but Jesus Christ himself says you have to learn from the other side. So, when when I listen to some of these songs that these guys are doing, I'm like, look, these guys have moved on to a whole new level. As a matter of fact, I had a songwriting conference. So, there were people from this church that attended. And I had ID Kabasa. He was one of the speakers. Because one of the challenges I have with Christian songwriters in churches, and I get a lot of pastors come and meet me and say, oh, this is just an aside. This is not in my notes. They'll come and say, Tade has written this song. He has gone to the studio. He has done video. What should we do? That is a wrong question to ask. Because that song, as you wrote it, you have an audience that you can test the song with. You sidestepped them. Look, if the people in your church don't like the song, that song can be liked. If you have 500 people in a church, test the song there on a Sunday. You don't even have to say, oh, we wrote this song. Don't say we wrote this song until everybody's, you don't say, this song is by Tadeo. Everybody will say, wow. But if nobody responds to the song, quickly just withdraw it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Way before social media and all of that, when I wrote songs like You Alone Are Worthy, Lord, or Today, there was no projector. In fact, we used to type it out on paper. And in fact, we will not even give people one sheet. We will not even divide the sheet, cut it into 4, and be teaching people You Alone Are Worthy, Lord. And the song itself took a life of its own. And it was after we did that we now recorded it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you have these songs, you have these skits, try it out in church first. God has already given you a home. And the reason why a lot of people don't try it out in church first is because they feel that they are not celebrated in church. And one of the things you have to understand is that God, that's personally, I don't believe that there should be celebrities in a local church. That's my own belief. It's like, how can I be a celebrity in my house? My job in my house is to wash plates. In my house, it doesn't matter how, because my wife and I are the only ones who leave. My daughter is in school. It's when she comes back, I abandon that duty. But in my house, the place can be as high as this. There's no houseboy or house girl in London. So the place can be as high as this. While I don't know, you're still going to wash it. So I believe that God plants you in a church so that your head can be correct. Now, if you now go outside, you minister, they are carrying you around, they use Range Rover to carry you, it's fine. But even that one, let your head be correct. Sorry, this is an aside because I always tell people, if somebody, like this morning, Mr. Charles, right, came to pick me, if he wasn't in front, I'm going to sit in front. Because I see some guys, protocol people, they'll come. You guys sit at the back. Meanwhile, it is the guy that owns the car. You don't even have Camry. You now sit at the back, pretending, enjoying nonsense life. Stop you to sit in front and be having a discussion that can help your destiny. Anyway, that's just an aside. Next slide. The Voice Nigeria, season 3, budget was 1.9 billion. I know this for a fact because the guy who hosts, the show is my friend. I had to send him a text yesterday and ask him, how much did this cost? Next slide. What does it mean to entertain? To provide someone with amusement or enjoyment. And isn't that what we experience every time we watch skits by Lasisi Elenu and Akpororo? Start mentioning all those guys you enjoy. Don't pretend now. Sorry? Sabinu, say, hey, yes? Who is that? Huh? Brain Jota. Okay, I have to find that one. Okay, who else? Sorry? So Pekin. Edo Pekin, yeah. I know that one. Yeah, who else? Brashagi. I was like, who was Brashagi? Praise God. Now, you see, one of the things we also have to understand is that these guys, you see, you feast on their content. 1 minute content and you laugh. But listen, it takes a lot of time to put those things out. Let me tell you how I know. So, Pastor mentioned, in the promo, they told you about green worship. Now, for green worship, we used to just have the concerts and raise money from the. But this year, we decided that we're going to raise money throughout the month of October. And so we're using some of these social media influencers, do you understand, to help us put out a message. So Macaroni is put out the message for us, Brother Shaggy, we're waiting for him, Ketenshaw. Now, to get them to do that, it takes a lot of time because they are busy. In fact, there's one of Macaroni sent us his schedule. This was like last month, and he showed us the schedule for the entire month of September. I think he only had 2 openings. So we laugh because we watch a 1-minute skit, but there's a whole lot of work that goes into it. Let's go to the next slide. So I said, people may be consuming. Now, things are hard, right? You said the streets are not smiling. So the food we're eating is, if you have children, maybe before. Pastor Shola, you remember when we were growing up? My mom, they would buy cartons of pig milk. And we'll just go, just take one. Today, I'm sure parents are building inventory with cage. You can't just be eating anything anyhow. But while that is going, while people may be consuming less food, people are consuming more content. Do you understand? They're using that content, like they say in Yoruba, to paronore. So that's why you see people, they will just, you can be walking past somebody, you just hear, ee-wee, right? Jesus! They're watching content. So while they think they don't have money, their money is data is going, which is money. And they are unconscious about that because they are laughing. People are betting more. Do you know that people bet inside church? They use the number of the scripture that pastor uses to preach to say, maybe 257. It's something I know that I've been told. The pastor will say, he will just say, so they will use it. It's something I've been told. I've been told that even in banking halls, they have to scramble some things because even bankers are betting. Why do you think? Because look around. Betting companies are large. They're the ones sponsoring events. So let's look at a few things. Number one, move to the next slide. Now, it's important for us to realize that content that Christian creatives will create and express will not necessarily bear the name of Jesus. Does that make sense? So what am I saying with this? I found out that some Christians think that the only songs they must write must be Christian songs, worship songs. But let me ask you a question. Which gospel song in Nigeria is as popular as the national anthem? Hello? Is there any? No, please answer. Which gospel song in Nigeria is as big as blah, blah, black sheep? Have you any wool? Is there any? Is there a market in writing songs for kids? The opportunity is there. But all of us want to write Christian songs and want to compete with Sinach and Nathaniel Bassey. One example that my friend, Pastor Shola knows, Jide, my former assistant, is a story I'll never fail to tell. They said God showed him a vision one day about a speck of sugar being here and a cube of sugar and a box of sugar being here. And there were lots of ants crowding around the speck of sugar, very few around the cube, none at all around the box of sugar. And that's it. Many times we just crowd around one little thing, meanwhile there are main opportunities elsewhere. Does that make sense? There are many kind of songs. How many of you have listened to Peter's new song? The way there's Peter, P-I-T-A. Has he been here before? Okay. So Peter wrote a song where he used the national anthem. You need to go and look for that song. Amazed. There are many. And the annoying thing for me is that even the gospel worship songs that we write, many times they're so pedestrian. There's little, a lot of times there's little thought in it. Do you understand? Some people just sing word for word Psalm 23. That's fine, but hello, can we do something better? All right? So let's read. For those of you who think I'm preaching heresy, I want us to read Song of Solomon, chapter 7. And that's why I wrote parental guidance required. Because listen, when I want to dance with my wife, right? Should I be singing "Shout to the Lord"? Even Jesus will say, "Hello, can you sing something else? Can you dance with something else?" Do you understand? How many love songs exist? Hello? Can we put Song of Solomon, chapter 7, on the screen? Like I said, parental guidance required. Is it possible to put the scriptures? Or if somebody has a Bible, just read. I'll give you a mic. Are you able to switch? Okay. Please, if you can find don't use KJV. So that's another problem we have. Because I don't understand, honestly, I don't understand how churches, I don't know where, I hope you don't use, do you use KJV here? So there will not be as if, I don't understand how churches will be using KJV to preach. Is it KJV English you use in English for school start? For those of you who don't know, Jesus Christ didn't speak King James English when he was here. He didn't even speak English. Okay, let's move on. Can you project it? Okay. So can you see this? Can you see the screen? Uncle, help my ministry. Okay, so let's read. 1, 2, go. Shapely and graceful your sandal feet, and queenly your movements. See raps. Just see rap there. Because some people, the funny thing about people is that they will now take this and say, oh, it's Jesus he's talking about. Do you know that people do that? It's babe. You will see as well. Also, your limbs are what? Are lithe and elegant. The work of a master artist. Verse 2. Your body, you first of all need to even now go to dictionary to find out what chalice is. Wine field. Your skin is what? Is silken and tawny. I mean, like a field of wheat touched by the breeze. Hello, is inside the Bible? Oh? This is not written by Kanye West. Okay, let's move on. Your are like what? Twins of a gazelle. That's why I said there's PG. Move on. Your neck is carved ivory, curved and slender. Your eyes are wells of, see toasting. Deep with mystery, quintessentially feminine. Your profile turns all commanding attention. Move on. Verse 5. The feelings syrup. So the feelings I get when I see the high mountain ranges, tearings of desire, longings for the heights, remind me of you, and I'm spoiled for anyone else. This is in the Bible. So for those of you, because now this is not a calling for everybody, but there's some people who have the gifting, do you understand, to write on true love and not all the other nonsense that we hear outside. Do you understand? Somebody said a lot of the other songs that we hear, they're only saying 4 things. I love you, I hate you, go away, come back. Okay? But you can write on love. You see, because the duty of a songwriter, the duty of a writer is to help people to say what they cannot say. Is to help people to say what they cannot write. Do you understand that? So let's stop there. Let's move to the next slide. Now, I want us to look at the value chain of entertainment from the standpoint of the consumer. And then when we look at these things, we can now ask ourselves, as a church, how can we function to help people, to minister to people? So we're just going to look at a few. Watching TV. When you watch TV, what's your favorite? Let me ask somebody, what's your favorite show on TV? Let me just get like 5. Favorite show on TV. Okay, let's ask. Do you watch TV? If you watch TV, let me see your hand. It's not a trick question. Okay. So what's your favorite show on TV, ma? Ma? Channels TV. News. Apart from news. You don't watch, so it's news you watch. Okay, fine. All right. Yes, I know. Super Story. Fantastic. Ma? Musical videos. Okay, good. Sorry? Modern farmer. Farming. Family. Okay. All right. Who else? Have some people here. Yes. Law and order. I like you. Good. Who else? Okay. Who watches series on Netflix? What series do you love best on Netflix? Sorry? Vikings. Okay, good. What else? Okay, what about, has anybody watched, there's this one about the president, no, not 24, no, not Oval, no House of Cards, Ma? Designated Survivor. Now, I want to show you something about Designated Survivor. Do you notice how they slipped in homosexuality? There was no reason for them to slip that thing in. They slipped it in. In fact, they now slipped it in black guy on black guy. That's a seed right there. You see, when you go on TV, your job of going on TV is not to be creating Mount Zion fame. Do you understand? It's to create that kind of stuff, but to leave out that kind of stuff. Because no matter what you say, a seed has been sown with that kind of thing, and I'm telling you, is reaping harvests in different dimensions. Does this make sense? Okay, so another part of the value chain, going to the movies. Who loves going to the movies? Right? What kind of film do you love to watch? Blockbusters. I love action. If you take me to a romance movie, I'll just sleep. If I many times, my wife and I and daughter will go to, if it's not high action, I mean, I've just wasted money. Listening to music. Sports. Now, let's look at sports. I think Abuja is better because Abuja is better planned. But in a place like Lagos, there's hardly anywhere where kids can play football. And that's why they just play football on the streets. That's why on election day, people are playing football. And I said something to one of the, some of the top guys in sports, in charge of sports in Lagos. And I said, do you know what you can do? Because I think Fashola did it. Why don't you buy 2 houses on the street, break it down, and build a mini sports complex on that street? Maybe just around. Just a minute, maybe 5 a side. Football. People can come there in the morning and just walk around, fence the whole, stuff like that. Now, if the government doesn't do it, the churches can do it. And I'm going to talk about how the churches can do it. All right? And let me tell you, so there are lasting effects to those kind of things. When you do those kind of things in a community, trust me, there's nothing that can happen to that church. If there is a riot somewhere, you can't touch that church because you are going to have serious border force Some guys will just stand. Nothing can happen to you. Playing video games. You know that is a huge world on its own. But the question is, what kind of content do we have on video games? Let's even talk about the kids, the films that are being made for kids these days. You know those things are not innocent anymore. They are not. You can't just leave your child and say, I'm working, be watching. Okay. There's some investments going on there. Going out to eat. Going out to eat. Can you put up, because that's entertainment. Can you have a decent restaurant where people can come and eat? Do you understand? Where people can come and, there's just something about that restaurant. Not just about serving food, but there's just something about that place. All right? Then, going to a comedy club. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have heard about a comedian called Michael Jr.? Michael Jr., Michael Jr. Anybody? If you haven't heard about that guy, Google him. I stumbled on this guy early last year. This guy is, a Christian comedian. He would blow your socks off. I'm telling you, I think all the Nigerian comedians need to go to him to learn, and he should have his hands laid on all of them. Do you understand? You will see comedy in a brand new level. Brand new level. Churches invite him, not all these 5-minute skits. Churches invite him, and he takes the whole service. Makes an altar call, and hundreds of people will come out. Hello? So, you see, when you see that kind of person, in Nigeria, there's always that debate. Comedy, churches who are doing comedy, they're not serious. When you see this guy's comedy, what's the guy, the pastor, I think he goes to Gateway Church, the pastor, the guy who wrote the Blessed Church, right? Robert Morris. Robert Morris will invite him on a Sunday morning, and he will be on stage for like 40 minutes. If you think Robert Morris is not serious, then too bad. So I'm showing you different dimensions here. Having a museum and art gallery. Now, do you know what? Pastor, do you know that churches have the most ready-to-use facility. There are many facilities, theaters or event venues that don't have what we have. Churches spend the most money on facilities, meanwhile, grossly underutilized. Do you understand? How many facilities in this Nigeria have rug? How many of them have padded chairs? How many of them? My brother, I don't want to mention, he went to rent, he did a concert a few days ago in one of the top venues in Lagos. He went there. By the time he just went, they said they have screen, they have lights. By the time he got there, maybe out of 100 lights, maybe it was only 10 that was working. He had to bring his own lights. He had to bring his own screen. But for us, it's working. Everything is working. It's air conditioned. You have to ask yourself, how many times why can't we have a weekly comedy show in this place? Do you understand? A weekly comedy show in this place. Decent. Everybody comes to work. Why can't we have weekly film shows in this place? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Wholesome content. Because people want to go out. People want to go out with family. But the question is, where can they go? That's the place of the church. You see, because you can't just say entertainment is not serious. It is serious. In Nigeria right now, entertainment is the only thing that is giving us hope. Yeah? Entertainment is the only thing giving us hope. How did you think the nation felt when Toby Amusan won that silver? Do you know that day, those 2 days, were 2 days of revival in Nigeria? The national anthem made new sense. When she stood on that podium and she started to cry. There was just one form of revival. There's nothing that the president would say or the VP would say that brought encouragement compared to what happened, on that day. Praise God. Next slide. In our churches, we need to intentionally create and sustain a culture where creativity will thrive. Now, this church is not that, this church, because if this church, if they are not doing that, this kind of way, we'll not even have this kind of events. Let me show you. I've been in a church, and that's why I wrote in the note there. I've been to a church where a pastor rebuked someone for dropping his offering with his left hand. Right? So there was an offering basket, and then the boy came, and I was there. So the boy dropped his offering with left hand. The pastor said, no, you should drop with his right hand. Let us ask the question. What would God say? Was God angry that he dropped the offering with his left hand? People who say, don't give me anything with your left hand, it depends on what you are giving. Because if I give you $1 million with my left hand, I bet you will not see the left hand. Praise God. So we have to intentionally create and sustain a culture. I'll tell you a story, right? Personal story. When we came back from the UK, my parents would go to work. My grandmother was with me, so maybe around 5. I could read a Tintin magazine. How many of you know Tintin? I could read Tintin and close it, get a sheet of paper, and start to reproduce everything that I saw in that magazine. My grandmother was an illiterate. And she would spank me and say, in Yoruba, why come I yaworan? Start to go and carry your book. That was how that gift of drawing died. It has only come back now. I can't draw, but I'm into graphic design. So it has always been there. There are many people's talents that have been killed. You see it. You see somebody. He's always talking. Say, you talk too much. What does the Oprah do for a living? Talk. Excuse me. What do you think Bill Clinton is doing right now? He's talking for a living. Do you know how much they pay him? He will just show up here 30 minutes. He's not going to collect less than $1 million. Sometimes the talking doesn't make sense. What do you think Barack Obama is doing right now? Or you think those talks are free? You try and book him. You try and book him. Next slide. In church, we need to deploy infrastructures and unfreeze them for use. Because some people, a church will build a studio, but the door is always locked. It's like people in Lagos, they will build garden, but there's fence all around it. People can't enter. They will build garden, they will build park, but nobody can enter. Only birds and rats. So I'll give you an example. While I was pastoring, we built a studio. When I think pastor has been to our children's facility. So upstairs we had a studio. And our guys, all these young guys, they would stay there, over, maybe not overnight, but from morning to night, producing music. And I want to show you a result of one of those guys. So if you can play that video. So this is one guy. Anybody heard of a guy called An Endless Ocean? Good, okay. So I want you to just play his video. Okay.
Capital, I never trade you for nothing. See me as I am, I'm rolling deep. We're intertwined, oh, I fill out your mind. See me as I am, I'm staggering. For your love's a rarity, it's very hard to find. Oh, let me talk, oh, let me tell, oh, watching them, oh, let me tell, oh, for me, la, 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 for you, oh, listen, my seni, tell it for your way. Oh, let me talk, oh, let me tell, oh, watching them, oh, let me tell, oh, for me, la, 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 for you.
We can pull it out. Now, so these are boys that I've known since I was like 10. Do you understand? I mean, so his music is so different. His writing, there's one day he has one worship song. Guess what the title of the song is? If you write a worship song, right, it will be titled will be like, we glorify your name. He wrote a song. It's called T-shirt. Which one is T-shirt? You know, amazing songwriter. Look, so himself, there's another guy called Daniel. All of them. There's OG. Then there's Promise. These guys, I mean, Waje came out with a song. I mean, an album. They wrote some of the songs on the album were written by these guys. Yeah, but it's because that facility was there, and they could be there from morning till night. You know, just writing songs. I mean, these guys, their songwriting is right, but because they had that opportunity, do you understand? They didn't have to go to any studio to pay. This was free for them. All right? Praise God. Let's move to the next slide. Now, this one, I wish, is there any other pastor here apart from pastor, any other pastors here as in, okay. Please, if you can get this to every other pastor, because one of the things and I can say it boldly because I've been, me too, like I usually say, I'm an assistant man of God, so I've been a pastor before, so I can talk. I think one of the challenges that pastors have today, especially with respect to social media, is that a lot of pastors want to be celebrities. There are celebrities in your church. You see, there are some celebrities in your church. You can't get behind those celebrities and disciple them. Not compete with them. I'm saying this for the benefit of those who will hear it after. Don't compete with them. I'll give you an example. When I was pastoring, I had a couple of guys in my church. For instance, one of them was Debola Williams. Some of you may know him, Debola Lagos, right? He was in my church. I mean, he had been in Jubilee, maybe like, he was like 15, okay? So he had been in my church for like 15, 16 years. Now, how will I be demanding that Debola, for instance, be in church every Sunday? Somebody that Obama has called to come and speak at his foundation. He may not be in church for 4 weeks. He may not be in church for 6 weeks. Do you understand what I'm saying? But the truth is that there's no major life decision that he wants to get into that he will not call me and say, even when he was going to get married, right? He called me and said, Pastor Wale, this is that one. And if I see him do something that I'm not happy with, I can call him and say, hey, bros. I mean, we have our disagreements and all of that. So there are lots of people, there are lots of creatives in the local assembly that have tremendous influence out there, that when they speak, people listen. The question is, what kind of content are they sharing? Hello? Okay. Let's move to the next slide and let's see the kind of people I'm talking about. Do you recognize all these 4 people on the screen? Who's the first person? From the left. Viola Davis, right? Okay. How many of you know her? How many of you love her? Good. Next, Denzel. Next, Mark Wahlberg. Next, Kanye West. Now, all of these guys are Christians. Now, somebody might even be doubting Kanye West's salvation. I saw somebody, I don't think. But I watched the show a few months ago that he put together with Drake. The first, I'm telling you, and it was at, I think, LA Coliseum. had like 70,000 people, not minding the rest of us who watched online. Listen, almost like the first 40 minutes was Jesus' song. Do you know what that means? To stand out there and sing about Jesus. I'm telling you, he just sang about Jesus. For those of you who are judging him, have you listened to the albums? And it's the last 2 albums that he has done. Right? I think there is Jesus is King. You need to listen to those albums. I think those albums, they were extremely deep stuff. Extremely deep stuff. Okay? Now, some of you will be talking about all the other stuff that is happening around. But let's ask ourselves the question. Even our favorite worship leader, sometimes they don't get K-leg. At least, they have been born again more than him. He's just coming inside. Let's not mention names, though. Praise God. Look at someone like Denzel. Now, this is where I'm going. Because a lot of people, when we think about Christian creatives, we think that they must be generating Christian content. Please, when was the last time Denzel acted in a Mount Zion film? Has he ever acted in Mount Zion film? Equalizer 1, Equalizer 2. You understand what I'm saying? But I don't think there's anyone. Denzel, the moral authority that Denzel has in Hollywood, when he talks, everybody listens. They don't just listen, they shape up. Look at what happened when Will Smith slapped. He was a stabilizing force. And that's why the guy has been married, his marriage is intact. There are very few people who have that testimony. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, what I'm saying is you have creatives in church who are not necessarily producing Christian content, but they are people of integrity. They are people who have not compromised their faith, that when they stand out, and I'm telling you, listen to me very carefully, these are the people that God is going to be using a lot more. We have pastors, we have evangelists, we have prophets. All of those guys, they're going to stand out there. They're going to do a lot more work out there. They're starting to do that now, but even a lot more in the days ahead. Does this make sense? Good. Next. So, and I said, look, you have how many people you have a bank that has a token? How long have you been using your token? 4 years? No. Much longer. Aren't you concerned that at one point one of the numbers won't work? You see, this is just mathematics. What's that thing we learn? Probability and whatever. That's the differentiation or whatever. Right? So it's endless possibilities. Those numbers that are being generated have been plugged into your account. That's why you can't use somebody else's token. Right? It won't work for your account. So, listen, I've mentioned before, don't be fixated on replicating current trends, which is what a lot of us are doing. So, for instance, when Nathaniel Bassey when he came out and he started singing, "Someone's knocking at your door," music distributors, they were laughing at him. Because at that time, it was all the Dekule Fuji kind of song that was raining. It was a Midnight Crew, Igwe. Those are the kind of songs that were raining then. Then you now bring this song that will put us to sleep. I know a particular music distributor that laughed and said, let him. Hello, today. Everybody wants to write like Nathaniel Bassey. So, that also shows one thing. Understand your uniqueness and embrace it. And those around you too must help you embrace that uniqueness. All right? So, I talked about doing films and songs for kids. All right? Bible says in Psalm 96 verse 1, sing a new song. 1 Corinthians 2:9 says, there is so much more. Eye has not what? Ear has not heard. And the church, and that's why I like conferences like this, the church has to be bold enough, right, to go in a direction that nobody else has ever gone. Let's take things like offering, for instance. I was teaching some pastors a couple of days ago. I said, if I was still pastoring, I'll be taking offerings in Bitcoin. Yeah. Because there are some young people in this place, they don't have Naira, but they have Bitcoin. I need the Bitcoin. So as a pastor, I will have a Bitcoin account. The church will have a Bitcoin account. But how will you even preach that when some pastors are saying that even having Bible on iPad, the Bible on iPad is not as spiritual as paper Bible? Do you know that some people still have that? They still have that problem. And I've said it here before, that if God was going to invest in paper Bible and Bible here, trust me, God will invest in this more. He will put his dollars in this one. You know why? Because when light goes, you can't read paper Bible. But when light goes, and which goes a lot in Nigeria, you can put on this. So which stupid investor will be investing in paper Bible? Hello? All right, number 7. Wisdom is profitable to direct. So when you set up organizations, in church, be careful about the name you give to your organizations, especially if that organization is going to interface with the world. I have an organization called Worship for Change. If I know what I know now, I will not be calling it Worship for Change. Because when we ask for sponsorship, it just puts a limit. Organizations will tell you, we don't deal with religious organizations. The only way we get any money is if the person on top is my friend. But on account of what we are doing, we could have easily walked in to any organization to sponsor us, walked up to Coca-Cola. So, in fact, one of our advisors said, if we are doing, we would have just called this, look for one word in worship in Greek and just name it that. Because there's some of you have business. You say, Psalm 133 verse 2, enterprises. You have created blockage. Do you understand? I mean, you want to start airline, Jehovah Jireh airline. There's some people that are not going to fly it. Okay? There was one, let me tell you a real story. There was one of the charities that we helped. The name of the charity was Arrows of God Orphanage. Buffett was going to send money. He said, even in sending the money, he was thinking this thing may be flagged because Arrows of God, it sounds like a terrorist organization. And that because, arrows. So be very creative in coming up with names. And especially when you are setting up organizations in Nigeria. CAC. Those guys they're a terrorist organization. I'm talking about corporate affairs. Because they need to change the people in that place. You come up with a name, they'll say the name sounds like somebody else's. You want to set up a name like Lighthouse. Do you know they will stop? Your own is Lighthouse Church. But they will not give you Lighthouse Church because somebody registered Lighthouse Biscuits. I'm like, there's something. Next slide. So please, if you are working there, you know your cousin is there. Please help us tell them. Let something wake up, please. All right. Look at this movie. I'm going somewhere with this movie. This is The Woman King. The budget is $50 million. Okay? But there were different production companies involved. TriStar Pictures, Well Entertainment, Juvenile Productions, Entertainment One, TSG Entertainment 2, and then it's distributed by Sony Pictures. Next, go to the next slide. The reason why I brought out that is that it is essential for us to know that for us to do great things as the church, which church can produce a film in Nigeria? $50 million. And that is not even, this is not an expensive film. That's not an expensive film. There are films that are $100 million. 150. All those Batman series, those are high budget movies. Okay? So for us to do great stuff as a church in Nigeria, there is no way we will not come. We need to come together. But you see, what we see in Nigeria is People who have this idea, they now want to do all this, like a friend of mine will call it small goat mentality project. Because we just want to do this. Listen. If we want to do, look at the budget for Big Brother that I mentioned earlier. Last year, 4.5. Definitely they spent more this year. Even if it's just for the sake of diesel. Because that house in which they are, the generator has to be on always. And the last time they did it, diesel was 360. Today is 800. So clearly, the budget is going to be more. For us to come out, and I'm saying this as a challenge to Pastor, you may not pull all the churches together in Abuja, but there will be a few like-minded people, right, with you, that we can come together. And I don't know what it is, whether it is music, whether it is film. You see, because when it comes to film, it's not just idea, right? It is the amount of money behind it. And this is how the amount of money, there are producers, you see, you can't bring Tayo Ojo. You cannot compare Tayo Ojo to Spike Lee. Anybody heard about Spike Lee before? You cannot compare both of them. You see, that Spike Lee is on your film alone. That his name is there. Otita. So the question is, will Spike Lee now come for 1 million naira? That he knows that by the time he started, maybe by the time he's leaving, the thing is now 900 to 1. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for us to have impact, there is no way a lot of money will not be involved. And for a lot of money to be involved, it will require us working together. And in working together, it doesn't mean that we all behave the same way. I said it before. You probably heard me say it. There's a difference between unity and uniformity. The fact that we wear the same thing doesn't mean we're united. Do you understand? Me, I can never wear the same thing with my wife. You see, because when I was growing up, they used that thing to kill me in the family. I mean, Christmas, all of us would wear the same thing. Uncle. I couldn't wait to get out of that house. So that now say, I want my denugani. I just... So, wearing the same thing with anybody. I don't know. Anyway. So, I close with that statement there. God, and I heard this through a senior friend of mine, Brother Samputu, he said, God will do great things through us if we don't care who takes the glory. God will do, and Jesus Christ has prayed that prayer. He has prayed that prayer for his disciples. How good and, not, he said, he prayed, I think in John 17 or whatever, that we pray that all of us will be united. But the people that he's praying for to be united are the ones even frustrating that prayer. Abi? We're the ones frustrating that prayer. We need to be united so that God will do. Listen, if Redeem does a thing with MFM, with Winners, first of all, everybody in those churches will watch. So imagine if they premiere the film and everybody is tweeting, it will be a social media meltdown. I hope what I've said today has made sense. Thank you very much, Pastor Shola.
Well, that was such an awesome time. Whoa, so much said in here. Thank you, Pastor Wale. Thank you. Honestly, you may be seated, everyone. I don't know what you heard, but I know I heard a lot. And I'm happy that you're my friend and my brother. I'd said it here, and I said it to, our organizing team. That part of what we've got to do is also to open up our studios. We have a video studio here, so we're going to be opening it up. We have a potential for music studio. We're going to be opening that up as well, so that people can come in and just use it. It is just where we must be, and it is where we need to be. Thank you for this. So impactful. There's just so much to take away from this message. And one of the things we're going to do also is we're going to capture this message in bits and pieces. And we'll be able to push it out to people. Leaders, in the church need to hear this, and other people as well. But it is so mind-boggling to see how we have just put everybody in a box. And that box needs to be shattered. And people need to be who God has made them to be and find their own expression in the different areas and fields. And just release their creativity and be a blessing to humanity. We don't realize the battle we are fighting. And most Christians would fight praying. But this is a fight of creatives deploying creative skills and pushing it out into social media spaces using technology. And you'll be amazed at how lives will be transformed. A couple of days ago, there was a video that went viral about this young lady in Yoruba who was saying, look, every woman should know that there can't be one man for one woman. A man cannot stay with one woman. You need at least 1, 2, 3. And she was quoting the scriptures. Now, while some people will look at that and say that's nonsense, and if you check the comments, there were lots of people agreeing. And like he said, is a seed that is sown. You can reject it and say it's not true. But years down the line, you begin to rationalize what wasn't true. And it was a rough thing she did on TikTok. And before you knew it, there were hundreds of thousands of views. So the battle has changed, and the dynamics of the battle is totally different. It's not the way we used to know it. And that's why we are here. And honestly, today, tomorrow, day after, your life is going to be so changed. And then maybe after that, we will now charge a fee for attendance. There's nothing really free. Nothing really free. Having to power this place costs a lot, but we thank God for those who made the sacrifices. Thank you again, Pastor Wale. Thank you for such awesome delivery. Pastor Wale will be leaving back to Lagos today. Just flew in just to be here to deliver this and then head back. And we know that we're going to have you back again. Definitely. The next facilitator that I'm bringing up, I got to know in 1996. So it's been a long way coming. 1996 is 26 years ago. And we've journeyed. I don't want to say much about him. I think that he's going to be saying a lot. If there was anybody I stressed in my life, I stressed him. Those days, I would call him to my house, and I'd just drop a book and say, you must learn everything in here. It was graphics, it was video editing, and all of those things. And I say, you must, there's coffee, there's food, just learn. And he will spend the night there, just digging, and we will see amazing things in media, and we'll try to create it. And, it'll be so tough to create. But it's amazing where he is today. It really, so this, and I'm sure he's going to be sharing very practical, real experiences. And I brought him because the trajectory of his life is very, very clear to me. Let's welcome from the United Kingdom, David Ayeni.
David Ayeni founded Creative Rhino, which is headquartered in London, UK. He is a proficient technical creative director with over 20 years experience delivering creative media projects and complex live productions in the United States, Europe, and Africa. He serves clients with a unique combination of technical expertise, creative inspiration, and leadership drive, never tiring in pursuit of the best possible results for his clients. He has a particular passion for finding the best way to bring messages to life and for passing on his skills to a new generation of designers and broadcast teams. He is very hands-on in the business and takes personal responsibility for making sure every project is delivered to the highest spec. He is specialized in 360 campaign, product marketing, product demos, TV broadcast, studio design and integration, multimedia workflow design and management, sales, marketing, and training. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you David Ayeni.
Thank you. Can you please sit down? Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you for having me here. Before I go and start talking about, a few things today and interacting with you, I have a few videos to play. So just indulge me. The reason why I'm playing this video is, Pastor Shala said a lot, but I just wanted to show you just, maybe another 5 to 7 minutes of a few videos that I've been involved with. 90% of these videos were produced by me. So you just have an idea of some of the things that I've been into. So Rachel, if you can just play the videos for us, that would be great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Ayeni, and I'm a content creator, a creative director, a filmmaker, and a television broadcast technologist. I have a passion for cinematography, a passion for content creation, but most of all, I love storytelling, and that's what it's all about.
Welcome to Creative Rhino. We create high-end, original content. We bring your stories to life. We can color your movies. We create docudramas. And we manage all elements of live broadcasts, including setting up TV studios and training staff. We create end-to-end advertisements for luxury products and for events. We do voiceover, and we give you full post-production support. We bring you creative flair, backed by a professional broadcast and post-production studio. This is Creative Rhino.
Just keep it going. Rachel, keep it going. Next slide.
Marshall & Brown Gourmet Jamaican Rum Truffles. Working with an award-winning master chocolatier, Marshall & Brown have created a gourmet range of luxury handmade rum truffles and vegan rum truffles. They're infused with finest Jamaican rum. These sinfully delicious truffles are irresistible. They're seductive, and the experience of biting into that wonderful ganache with its soft, creamy interior is the quintessence of chocolate pleasure. Marshall & Brown, London, the ultimate rum truffle for the chocolate connoisseur.
So my name is Hilary Moore.
and I'm the author of the Brave Strong Girls series. There are 3 books in the series. The first one is Brave Strong Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, a rewriting of the traditional tale. The second is The Brave Strong Mermaid, and the third is an original. It's called Brave Strong Leonie and the Race of a Lifetime. It's about a girl who doesn't accept the rule that only boys can race in a famous pony race. So that was the inspiration behind these books, to write books with strong female characters, full of character, full of mischief, intelligence, initiative, and maybe a bit of beauty too, but that isn't what matters the most.
Is there anything impossible for me to do? It's time to surpass your limits and discover your true potential at the International Gathering of Champions 2022 Limitless with host Pastor Matthew Shimalowo.
The righteous shall be bold like a lion. You will never see a lion with some bodyguard.
And guests T.D. Jakes.
When you have fallen in love with God, your value changes.
Mensa Otabil.
She took charge. We are looking for Deborahs who know how to rise.
Debo Oliomi.
His kingdom be established through us on earth.
IGOC 2022. Impartation for Change and Empowerment. August 24th through the 28th at KICC Prayer City, ME5 9QG. For all things IGOC, visit igoc.org.uk.
KICC TV.
It's very, very, very powerful.
Watch live TV on the go.
We need to bring souls to Christ like you take that child.
Hang in there, don't quit now.
Choose what to watch on demand.
Jesus died.
The Holy Spirit will abide with you forever.
Choose where to watch. Web, TV, app. Take KICC TV anywhere you go. Available on the App Store, Play Store, and your free-to-air box. Timely technology, timeless truth. KICC TV, now showing on Roku.
Thank you. I just want to thank the media team for just making this smooth for me. All right? All right, just by a show of hands, how many writers do we have in the house? If you're a writer? Fantastic. How many cameramen do we have in the house? Camera people? Fantastic. How many actors do we have in the house? Good. How many post-production people do we have in the house? So if you're into editing, photography, any photographers in the house? Good. I'm just trying to connect with those that are here. And then, obviously, the rest of us who are considering jumping into any of these fields, okay? I want to first thank Pastor Shola for bringing all this together. I mean, not just this event. I just want to talk about the fact that, you know, after high school, I was one of those kids that just like you, something was burning on the inside. And I had gone to computer school, and I was training in a computer school, but I always wanted to do something about graphics. And when I would have conversations with him, he's like, if you're really interested in this, you know, we can make it happen. I think one of the hardest things for me initially was Pastor Shola had the opportunity to travel abroad and would bring all these flyers from abroad that I mean, then there was no internet. And he would bring a flyer, maybe from a church or like, posters for these films, and he would drop it on the table. He would tell me, this is the computer. They either used CorelDRAW on this stuff or Photoshop, and he would give me the manual. Now, when he said it, he just did this, but what you guys don't realize that that's actually the volume of these books. So we're talking about probably sometimes thousands of pages on how to. And then he would take a picture and he would tell me to create something for Lighthouse. Then it was Oasis of Love. And he would tell me that there's a program in 2 weeks or maybe less. And he will tell me, with these pictures he has given me, I should use this, create what I've seen, but replace it with Lighthouse. I mean, guys, seriously. And so I had a regular job, but I would close and then go to his house. So dinner was provided. And one of the things that I did not really like was Pastor Shola doesn't sleep. So the point where you're feeling inspired around 1 a.m. to just doze, you just seem, I could see his office through the kitchen, through the dining room table. I could see his light on. And he would just stroll out casually to ask me how far. So I'm basically, no, seriously, true life story. I am reading this book on how to crop, how to cut people out, and then I'm looking at the tool in CorelDRAW. I did in CorelDRAW what I was supposed to have used Photoshop for. When I found out later that with Photoshop I would have saved her the time, it was years later. The bottom line is, we got a lot of those flyers done. I found another way to get it done with the tools that I have. Some of us have this today. Honestly, this thing will tell a lot of stories. You may not need to buy the iPhone, but if you're a serious creative, yeah, and you're going to buy a phone, I'll be honest with you, it's better to spend over 100K because of the camera in the phone you're about to buy than to just buy a very big tablet, yeah, that looks good but it's not functional. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I learned how to do things with the tool that I had at that point. And over time, I started learning more tools to add to what I'm doing. And that's basically what I will be covering today. So at any given point, I hope I have the time. I'm looking at I'm counting down myself just to make sure I can give you enough. Now, everything that I showed you there are things that I did. Most of them, 90% of the content were generated by me. I shot them myself. But I learned several years ago, like he said, 26 years ago, how to read and apply. Not all of you can go to a film school. If you get a chance to, please do. But today on YouTube, the same data you would use for creatives here, all right? The same data you're using to consume other people's content, you can use it to learn how to create your own content. I would watch today, trust me, that discipline, I would watch for 6 hours non-stop. I am learning how to set light. I'm trying to create something. I will watch different people talk about lighting. And what kind of lighting, what mood, what am I trying to create, how to set that light. I will watch the videos over and over without, it's just become, I've trained myself. It's going to be repetitive. You will do it and do it and do it again till you get to where you want to get to. The other thing Pastor Shola taught me was excellence. The one message a lot of us that are currently abroad, one message he preached was the spirit of excellence. Reverend Shola does not compromise. You know where you think, after you faded someone off and then there's a part of their hair, just one small hair, that you could have just ignored. Pastor Shola will just tell you, stop, zoom in. And he'll be like, how do you feel this is in your eyes, that this is actually perfect?
What would it have taken you to have just removed that hair? Then when I remove it, like, doesn't it look better? Repetitive behavior. Don't give up. I'm just talking about creative. Whether you're a cameraman, whatever it is you are, don't give up. You know, there's some people when they take shots, and I'm just for cameramen, all right? I learned how to walk when you take shots without having to, you know, if you walk like this, the image will be jumping. How to manage to take a shot and learn how to be still. It's muscle you have to develop. You're not just going to pick your camera one day and then you want it to be smooth. You want to act like, you know, some people feel they don't need what is called a gimbal, something that will balance, and then you hold. And then when you look at the shot afterwards, you're like, it's 4K. Who sent? The person who shot in fact, let's even use standard definition, without the camera shaking, is a better shot than you that shot 4K with a shaking camera. It's these little things, or where you place things. So you've watched all those adverts, and I'm you know, the things that I've done, and I will go more into it as time permits. Two things. If I'll repeat this, I'll say this now, and I'll repeat it at the end. You need passion, and you need a spirit of excellence. You need passion. Passion is what is not going to make you give up. Because trust me, people are going to knock your job down. They will tell you, you know, people are designing. You call this a design. You may do it over, but guess what? The more you do it, you will begin to see things. So you need to be passionate, because if you're not passionate as a creative, you think you're the only one creating content. How many millions of contents are consumed in a day? Why the heck do I have to waste my time to watch yours? So it means you have to repeat it till you can look at it and say, yes, this is good. I am my worst critic. I will finish an ad. It's just 1 minute. I will watch that ad like maybe 20 times. I'm not kidding you. On a big screen. I will keep playing it. I'll be looking for, frame by frame, looking for mistake, because I remember when Pastor Shola would spot that frame. It's stuck in my head that someone is going to see that thing that you thought they did not see. So I watch it over and over and over again. I'm listening to the sound. Is this too loud? Is that too, you know, how does that feel? And then I will leave it for a few minutes, come back and watch it again. And then when I'm sure that I'm good, then I will call. I have a couple of friends, like Pastor Wale said, I have a couple of friends who criticize my work. Then I will send it to them before it goes to the client. Not like, no, you're done, you're happy with yourself. Can everyone see this iPad on the screen? Can you tell if it's on or off? No, you can't. It's currently, the screen is off. But I can see the screen, you can't. No matter what you do, there are different perspectives. So while you have your passion, yeah? Passion is what drives you to do what you're doing. Excellence is when other people have criticized it. Like Pastor Wale said, if you think the song is good, try it in your congregation. First of all. So let people criticize you. There are people who just feel they know too much and they can't be criticized. They're like, I've been doing this for 10 years. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. Are you communicating? Fortunately, I have a partner who's what they call a comms expert. You know, communications people. If you're into communications, when I finish the work, by the time she watches it, she'll be like, what was the message you were trying to pass? And then when I said that, she's like, actually, that wasn't what I got. You can imagine after all the hard work. And she's like, okay, if that was the message, it was only at this part of it that I got that message. The rest of it, then I will go back, and then the part that she said, I would now readjust that and then send. The times I've ignored it and I've just maybe sent to a couple of friends, I'll be like, I didn't really get that same message. So I realized that as a creative, even as a writer, you write and you have a perspective. let other people see your work and let them criticize and tell you. It helps. And that is where excellence comes in. Excellence is not a singular point of view. So let people see your work. I'm kind of going off script. I have a script here, but I'm going off script, and I just feel it's what certain people need to hear at the moment. Excellence. So we're creatives. Or the reason why we're here is so that we can create dynamic things. So let me just get into practical mode. I am not a writer. I'm not a writer. I found that out a long time ago, that I'm not a writer. But I know how to interpret things. If you write and give it to me, I can produce. And not from the point of being a producer, because there are producers and there are directors. So, the producer is the one who will bring all the elements together. Oh, we're trying to do this project. We'll be talking to the writer. We'll be talking to the director. We'll be talking to the director of photography. That is the job of the producer. I am not a director. I actually realized over time that I'm more a director of photography. And not that I cannot direct a movie or direct something. I mean, I produce adverts. That's one direction. Give me all the information. I begin to bring everything together, and I can do that. But when it comes to when we're working together as a team, list of things or list of departments that go into producing one thing, I am more a director of photography. Who is the director of photography? I'm the guy who, when you say we want to shoot this place, I'm looking at the lights. What story are we trying to tell? I'm looking at the background. So the director tells me, I want this lady, when she comes in, to look sad. This lady is sad, and she's going to walk into her room, and she's going to sit down in this place. It's a sad scene. So the director is concerned about making sure the actors are doing it the right way and all that. Director of photography is the guy who knows the angle the camera should be at to tell the story you're trying to tell and what should not be there. So for example, I'm just going to go back if the camera guys can follow me, yeah? So if I stay here, can you just follow me? Now, I'm going to stay here. What stands out more here? Is it me or this red? It doesn't matter how I'm talking from now till tomorrow. Do you know, you subconsciously, you find yourself looking at this red. Someone will be like, but yeah, it's a creative. 90% of what I will say, you will not remember. Because that number 8 that is red is telling more story than what I'm saying. So it's the job of the director of photography to say that 8 is going to be distracted. Let's move it here. Let's arrange it in this way. Rachel, if you just in the background, just on the screen, just play the other video I talked about, the long one. It says Juliet interview or something. Just put it on the screen while I'm talking, all right? Because I'll refer to it. As creatives, we have to work together. When I started doing this thing, I did not realize for a long time that what I've always wanted to do was film. Everything I wanted to do was film. I would watch film. Like, some of you don't even realize that's probably what it is. That it's not the story that you're watching. I realized it wasn't the stories that I was watching. It was the how. How did this person, the way that camera looked, how did they zoom in? It was all about storytelling. So what you're seeing on the screen, while I'm talking I hope those at home can see it. What you're seeing on the screen is, this was recorded in Dallas, Texas, I think March this year. And if you look at those two people sitting down, you will know who the main subject is. The color of what she's wearing. Later on in the stuff, you see the face of the person sitting on the right, but the way I framed that shot, and this is for you doing for creatives, the way I framed that shot, there's a reason why she's wearing that yellow. You see that light at her back to her, was not there just because of anything. There is a reason. So if you are shooting, you're a cameraman, you're doing stuff, one of the rules of thumb is if it is not adding to your story, take it away. Anything in that frame. What is a frame? What you can see. Okay? What you can see is a frame. If it is not adding to your story, take it away. The reason why that lamp is there, it's not as though it's not adding any light to anything. It is just creating what we call depth of field, just to show you where things are. And that color, the orange color, is similar to our skin. So later on, when you have the time and you watch any film and they're sitting there and talking, you would always see that lamp. Because the guys who have done it over and over again, it helps create depth of field. The light is not really doing anything. It's like an artificial light. It doesn't have to be there. So you just note it down. Just go and watch any film. Yeah? And you see them sitting in a room. You will now suddenly start to see this light. It's been there since. But you've never paid attention. But what I've done is I've composed that scene. Now, let me tell you something that we do in film or in television. I will spend more time on film and things like that. Is when I started shooting this thing, we had planned that we were going to shoot this around 1. And I'd hoped I would finish this interview maybe around 3 at the most. I woke up in the morning. It took 3 hours to set this up. To set up, I'm not saying to shoot. To set up this, what looks so simple, took about 3 hours to get the light right. But I also knew that at a point, because we're using the sun initially from what you're seeing, you know the sun, if cloud enter the sun now, overcast and all that stuff, your light will start to change. So if you're into production, you need light. You need light. So what I did was I opened this shot and asked the person to talk just so that we can establish the scene. So you see where they are. This is just to establish the scene. But the lady who we're going to interview took a long time to get ready. Sorry, ladies, no disrespect. But she took too long as far as I was concerned. At the point we were about to shoot, I was pissed. I was already angry. Because we should have started shooting at 1. We were starting to shoot at 3. Which meant the light that I was hoping to work with was going to drop. Now, what I planned, I knew it wasn't going to work. So what I did was shoot this scene, the whole interview, just go straight, just to have a wide shot. And then when we went to close-up shot, and this is what you may not notice in Hollywood or in or Nollywood when they shoot, is when they do the close-up scene, which is the one that doesn't show everything, they have to adjust the light now again. Because we have to focus on the face. Right now, you're not really focusing on any face. Even though you can see her, it's not as close. It's not much. But the lights have to be adjusted. So when we were going to the closer scene, what we then did was I had to replicate this light that you're seeing to bring light, put it by the side. And one of the tools we use for lighting, a lot of people don't use it, is a light meter. So I had read this light with a light meter, knowing how much intensity of light we used at this scene. And then when I did the closer shot, I had to use the same light meter to adjust that light until it gave me the same reading because if you don't, I'm just saying, if you don't do that, I don't know how you watch some films. When you finish the film, you know what the story is, but the way you're feeling after the film is not the way the story. So this is a close-up shot. This is no longer the light from outside. This is artificial light that I've used to match the light from outside. Because as at the time we got to a point of it, there was no longer light outside. So if you watch some film, after a while, you're just wondering that this girl was light at the beginning and suddenly the scene is changing. That is why some of our movies don't make it to the film festivals. Because the guys at the film festivals, they pay attention to this. That consistency. Now, this project is a project, and it's a sad one, because she is a 15-year breast cancer survivor. I'm shooting a documentary on breast cancer. And as at this point in March, I had interviewed 3 ladies. She's a survivor. I interviewed 2 other ladies. One of them had done a single mastectomy, and these are friends. One of them had done a single mastectomy. If you don't know what a mastectomy is, it's when the breast is removed. So one of them had done a single mastectomy. The second one had done a double mastectomy. Now, for a lot of you that don't know this, you know, breast cancer kills more African women than any other disease. And it is growing. And these ladies get breast cancer when they're like, they're in their 30s. So, I mean, that's another story. So I shot 3 women. In August, the one with a single mastectomy passed away. And 6 weeks later, the one with double mastectomy passed away. But I had to capture these stories. And so this is the only one so far. And we're going around Africa and recording and, you know, putting this documentary together just to inform people. But you see, I just told you a story. I just told you a story without even hearing what she's saying. But now, imagine, now that you know the story, are you not looking at her differently? And she had a single mastectomy and has done breast reconstruction. The whole essence of what you're trying to do is tell a story. So I just stood here. When we first showed it, all you saw was the, you know, if I was a guy, is a fine babe in yellow. For other ladies, some of you are dissing that hair, isn't that old hair? And, you know, and some of the creatives here are looking at going, that's a very nice, it's very sharp. You know, it's clean. But you didn't even know the story behind it. But now I just told you the story behind it, and suddenly, even without hearing anything that she's saying, it is already communicating a message. There is empathy. You start to feel empathy. You start to feel all this thing. If that light on the side was blinking, you know when the light is not, the bulb, the connection is one kind. And you just leave it. That's the only thing people will see. They're trying to listen, but that flicking light, that half current is just going to mess things up. Thank you. It will change so they'll think you're trying to act horror film. It's these little things. So anything you're putting in your frame, and for those of you who write storyboards, this is another group of people who will write the storyboard as in what happens. You have to determine whether what you're putting in that storyboard adds to the story. So you can also, from the advert we played earlier, there's a difference between when I'm doing an advert for a church or I'm doing an advert for a product. The one thing that I pay attention to is that make sure your work is clean. Make sure your work is clean. And 2 things make work very clean. Lighting. Lighting. I know that sometimes you want to shoot something and it's outside. Ask yourself, how consistent is that light going to be to what you're creating? It's easy to distribute things on social media and people will like it, they won't say much, you know, it will go past. But if you want to monetize your work, and this is key, unless you don't want to monetize it, you're just doing it for free. But if you want to monetize your work, especially those in production, then make sure it is clean. Clean means it is excellent. It is better to just have a white background, well-lit person. That's a clean job than to, you know, some of us, you know, in Nigeria, we can have some chairs that is so fancy, everything is glittering. You put light, the light is bouncing off all the studs and all that, so you're like, it's still correct. Meanwhile, the light that is bouncing is creating glares on your subject, and all you're looking at is what the person is, you're looking at is what is around. No, you have to compose your shot. I've done things in church for a long time, and as you can see, I produce all the adverts for KICC in London. And it is to constantly make sure that when you watch a church ad, you think you're watching something, a blockbuster trailer. But also, if you pay attention, I also make sure that the sound is not all over the place and the sound is balanced. Sound is important. Sound is important. If you're using your phone, there are some cheap microphones you can buy now that is Bluetooth. So if you're going to use your phone to record, which is great, just buy the cheap Bluetooth one. Invest in it. It's better to have a cheap quality sound than a bad sound. What is a bad sound? It sounds like I'm just speaking gibberish. If I take my camera from here and I'm recording, let's just say Pastor Shola, for example, and he's talking and the camera is here, there is a big gap between the camera. And so you hear this hollow. He'll be sounding like, yes, you know that. You won't know when you will switch off. Naturally, because have you realized that, Pastor Wale, let me say, for example, if you were there and I want to have a conversation with you, who has ever, well, it happens here in Nigeria, especially when you're warning someone from a distance. I they warn you, that's from a distance, yeah? But if I'm having a conversation with people, 90% of the time, if you're talking to someone, you talk to them like this, right? Subconsciously, that is what we know true sound to be like. The proximity. And you can tell. We do it every day. So whenever you now hear a sound, we don't raise our voice to talk. We have conversations. So when you're recording your sound and you now put the camera here, and the camera you put here, this is where the microphone is. Then you know how we'll now increase, in post-production, we'll be increasing the noise. Because between this and here, there is space, there's an empty space. And this empty space has noise. And the clarity of that person's audio. I mean, ladies, for example, just don't take it personal, guys. If a guy is trying to toast you, yarn you, or whatever, there's a way you like, see, it's so far. You'll be like, I did. Because there's a way he has spoken. And he has to be close. You can hear how my voice has changed. But imagine if I'm trying to yarn you and I go, see, it's how far, fine babe, by your side. You start looking at the person like bad market. So for those of us creating content, that's the same concept. Where is the audio? Record, like, there's this tape that I use. It's just a regular tape. Take the same microphone, hide it in between the person's cleavage. For guys, you just put the microphone there, use sellotape, tape them. And then record it, even if it's bad audio. Because I've watched some of these Nigerian skits where those people will hide the camera, someone will be talking from a distance, and you can see that the camera is far, but you can hear the conversation going on very clear. You will enjoy the skit because the audio sounds the way you and I have regular conversations. So sound is very important. Another thing I'll just say for those of you who shoot, and it's a very small, simple concept, is they tell you to shoot from the shadow side. Shoot from the shadow side. So look at this girl. I could have naturally, what I should have done is put the light here. But the camera is where the shadow is. It is more complementary. Can you hear me? As long as you can still hear me, that's fine. Shoot from the shadow side. It is better to just have one light and shoot from the side of that, from the opposite side of the light. Because conventionally, you want to shoot at the angle where the light is. But for television, for film, those of you who want to shoot film or music video, don't light the people's face. The only place where we do full lighting is daytime television, and that's why it's called daytime television. They will remove every shadow. And fashion photography, you light every aspect, you don't put shadows. But for creative work, even if you don't have the money, it's when you're trying to get too much light that you end up thinking you're shooting something that is an interview. This is interview style. So it's just, look, even if this girl has nothing to say, just the way it looks, I'm not just trying to hail my work, but just the way you say, we hear what she want to talk, Seth. I would also just quickly, just looking at the time that I have. How many of you sometimes, you have your TV on, but the audio is off? But the TV is just on. And you put it on certain channel. You're not hearing what they're saying, but the TV is on. Have you realized that most times, it's certain channels that you like to watch because what you don't realize is the quality of that channel. That it is just playing in the background. But because it was properly done, just like this girl that is just still talking and we don't have an idea. Visually, it needs to be strong. Visually, it needs to be strong. And I'm focusing on those doing visuals. For the writers, you write the stories that we have to produce at the end of the day. But for those of you who are behind the camera or who are cutting, who are in post-production, how you frame your shot is important. I think for a second there, they just showed the other girl. It's how you frame your shot. So one of the two things, I'm just going to quickly read something to you, and this is just reading. It's an excerpt that I got from Matt Peters, and it's all about our world. So just... It encompasses some of the things that I've said, but I think this is important, all right? I don't want to wing it, and so I'm just going to read through it. And please, as much as you can, just take it in. The art of storytelling is a vital part of creating compelling content. As content creators, our main goal is to engage our target audience and get them interested in what we are sharing. We are storytellers. The history of storytelling goes back thousands of years to oral storytelling, like Tales by Moonlight, and cave paintings. But a lot has changed. In today's world, telling a story that will stand out amongst thousands of other pieces of content available on the internet and mobile app is not an easy feat. We have entered a new era of advertising. No longer is the most effective marketing techniques intrusive advertising, which is the advert is playing, you can't do anything about it, you have to wait till it finishes. Consumers are able to fast forward through ads or simply swipe down past content they don't want to see. Since an audience isn't being forced to watch or read anything anymore, it means that to truly engage an audience, we need to be able to create something the demographic wants to see. Telling a story as a means of marketing is no longer a creative choice. It's a necessity. Storytelling techniques like framing, plot, character development, and narrative all have their place within content creation. The frame that you write your story with can really change the feeling of a story. What does the narration give away? From whose point of view is the story being told? How the text conveys the narrative can really change how the story is understood by the audience. Most content pieces are told through a subjective framework, meaning our brand story is told through a character's point of view. So when you're writing, for those of you who are writing stories and you want to put 5 characters, telling stories from 5 characters, that's a different way of doing things. But every story you've seen today, any film you watch, is from someone's point of view. Whoever the hero is, or the main subject, it's always from someone's point of view. You can write your story, and it's from the story of the houseboy, housegirl, maid. That is the person that is giving you the gist of what is going on. Sorry, 1 second. Some other, I'll just go to visual. I'll skip this. Photos are extremely powerful visual storytelling tool. In terms of storytelling, photos can relay aspects of a narrative, the character and setting, but video storytelling can be extremely effective and historically has been very successful. So from all the millions when Pastor Wale was talking about the films, including Big Brother, these are all visual stories. And they seem to want to be the ones that bring in the bigger pay, because a lot of people are involved in it. But this is one thing I want to tell you. If you're going to work, if you're going to be successful, work with a team. Work with a team. I'm glad I've heard Pastor Wale, what you've done opening the studio, and Pastor Shola opening the studio for people to learn. Work with a team. Because today, the biggest names that are producers and directors, they have worked with almost the same set of teams for years. Don't always go at it solo. That's the one thing in Nigeria. One person won't shine. One person wants to shine. It's all about a collective. How many of you watch end credits at the end of a movie? You see all these big films. Look at the end credit. It tells you how many people came together for what you've seen. When a movie costs $150 million to produce, what you don't realize, it's not the technology that costs, it's the human power, human resources. It's the human resources that is costing that much. Because when you have about 1,000 people working on one project, and sometimes they're paying them like maybe $500 to over $1,000 a day, and they're shooting that project for 2 months. Do the math. Then you think by yourself, you want to be the director, the producer, the writer, so that at the end of the day, it's only your name. And you see it in a lot of movie, producer, your name, this, your name, this is your name. One person, why wouldn't the movie be it won't go far, it can't. It's when someone will criticize your work, you're like, when the guy jumps, like when he lands, you now fall and say, hey! So I'm like, but that place no high now. If he's going to shout that kind of shout, let's raise the... Honestly. So when you criticize and criticize and criticize, everyone will now say, okay, this makes sense. Because we all see things in parts. We all see things. Just look around you. Look around you. And you can meet people at the studio and use technology. I mean, when Pastor Wale, when you were playing the Nazarene song, all I did was just pick my phone. I'd never heard that song before. I just went to an app called Shazam, and I just listened, and it just told me, it means when I go home now, I can go buy it. When you do a good job, look for the platforms that you can register with. Some of you will like, no, we believe when we pray about it, it will, no. Find the platforms that distribute the kind of content that you're producing and put it out there so that people can find you. Sometimes it's when you've done one great hit, then people will now recognize that actually you've done other 5 or 7 or 10 other things that they did not even realize you had done before, and suddenly all those things begin to come up. So I want to just spend the last 10 minutes, which is what I have, by just challenging us. to start with the tools that we have. You have an idea, just write it down. Some ideas that, might be an inspiration from God or just an inspiration may not even be relevant today. It may become relevant in 5 years' time. Because some movies you're seeing today, they probably were written like 5, 10 years ago. So just because you're having an inspiration right now does not mean it has to come out now. It may not be the season for it. If you release that thing when it's not in its season, then it will not generate the right thing. So for writers, for example, just keep writing. You have tools, your phone. Your phone is always with you. You may not always have a pen. Your phone is always with you. Just keep writing your ideas. Just keep writing your ideas, because one day you just don't know when something will come up and they're working on something else. Oh, they're doing this project. You're like, I've written this, and it becomes relevant. Just keep writing. For those of you who are cameramen, don't wait till when there is an event for you to practice how you hold your cameras. Look, you all have a phone today. Record a lot of things. Play back and watch yourself. It's better to have a tripod and to have a still shot that is not moving. You see, once your camera starts to shake, it does not matter how good what you're trying to capture. That shaking will just turn people off. You've lost that opportunity. For those of you who cut, who edit things, I have one simple rule for editors. If you're editing something, and editing job is not easy. So for those who edit, I give you props. I learned a simple technique over time when I realized what frustrates me when I watch other people's content. And that's when I'm watching and my emotions are all over the place. I don't feel steady, like it's moving in a direction. And sometimes you edit, the music will just jump or become loud, and all that imbalance. So when I start to play my adverts, this is what I do. You may use it, you may not, you need to use it. It's not written anywhere, but I found out over time that the way I'm listening, I start to move my hand. So when I play an advert, I start to move my hand as it's going. If I find myself stopping at any point before I move, it means at that point it didn't make sense. It might have been the sound. Something jumped or something. Just if I can't pull my hand straight, keep going while that advert is playing and I keep going without stopping. If I stop or slow down, it means something there is not right. I will try it a few times and I'll find myself stopping, and then maybe it's a transition that I use there. It just jumped too much. I would change it and feel till I can move from left to right without having to stop. And at the end of the day, if that goes through, I know that technically speaking, it is smooth. So for those of us that do post-production, whether you're doing stuff for church or you're doing stuff in whatever it is you're doing, ask yourself if that thing makes you stop. For you producing it, does it make you stop? And if you're someone who finds yourself that you're, I have a studio, which I was very proud to show Pastor Shola when he came to London, because it's taken me years. As in, when I say years, it's probably taken me as much as over 20 years, to get there, because it is not cheap. But I wanted a post-production studio that I can cut my job in, that I had everything that I needed, which meant it was going to cost me thousands and thousands. I could have gone to look for a loan somewhere. I didn't want to go that route. So it took me a longer route, which meant with every job that I did, I would take something out of there and buy a software. So when I was working on this project and I wanted to work on sound and I needed my sound to be clean, I went and checked what what Hollywood used in cleaning their sound. This software was $900. To clear, I said, wait, which kind of talk would they talk? But when I read through all the reviews, I realized that that is what they use, so that the sound is crisp. Guys, it's not a boast. It took a while. But I swallowed my pride. And I got that software. And trust me, when I send things and people are like, you see all that thing I was playing and you guys are just feeling the sound. Yes, I can tell the difference. I wanted to buy a microphone because, this is nothing to do with boasting, and so please just know, I'm just saying it from a point of observation. Start with what you can afford. The smaller, a good sound, however poor the quality is better than just empty space. So start somewhere, and then when you have the money, then start, or go and borrow from someone who has one, that you can get a good sound. I wanted to record my audios, and I was going to be traveling, record my audios, and I started looking for what the professionals use. Man, when I saw this microphone that seemed to be the one that they use all the time, it was going to cost £900 for one microphone. So, obviously, there was this fight within me. Just the same way you're having that fight now. Because it means if you buy this phone, now Gary, you go drink. That will be the alternative. But I then watched a guy who arranged all the microphones together, and he said he read the same statement in all of them. And I realized why they picked this microphone. This particular microphone makes everyone's voice sound almost as original as you talk, as though the person is right beside you. It's not about being crisp. There was something, it had this natural feel. I was like, but I had to listen to the other microphones with the same thing to realize why Hollywood for years, and this microphone was made in the 40s. It's not a new microphone. It was made in the 40s. But that's the one they use every time. And the thing is rugged. After I saw the price, I just knew I'd invested other things. I didn't know when it would happen. So fortunately for me, a good friend was like, you've really spent money on this thing. That's why it's good to at least be showing your work, you know. And then I said, I'm trying to shoot this thing. I've bought everything visually. Those of us that buy lens and all that. To now invest in audio. And if you don't know it, audio is 50% of your production. 50% audio is 50% of your production. Because you're listening to me because I'm using this microphone. You're listening to me because I'm as close to you as possible. So when I spoke to my friend and said, this is what's going on, I need to buy this microphone. After they looked at what I'd invested, the person said to me, he said, David, let this be my gift to you. I will buy you this microphone. And that's how I got the microphone. And another friend was like, oh, if you have that, you've done it. And all I needed to do was to show them what I've been doing. You see why you should record your stuff and do it well? Because when they saw the quality of the things that I was doing, they're like, no, you can take this to the next level. What do you need? I needed to buy a recorder. The recorder was £500. The one that I wanted to buy, after research, was like £500. And another friend bought that recorder for me. There are people that would encourage you, but they need to see what you're doing. Because I have a passion for this stuff, and I have also just worked on the spirit of with the spirit of excellence, or just making excellence my drive. I will record that audio over and over and over again. I learned in recording that if you're going to shoot outside, at least have minimum 2 sources of audio. So I have backup audio, just in case one messes up. Because once you start to record, you wouldn't even know when maybe that microphone has stopped working. So I have the cheap one inside the people, just taped inside them, recording to my camera, and I have my main microphone. Just in case something happens, you may never be able to recapture that moment. I have backup. But that is what excellence requires. So don't give up. I'll end by saying this because, yes, I have about 48 seconds. Your passion is great. Passion is good. Because you need that passion to keep repeating, even when people tell you your stuff is not good enough. I got to a presentation with another guy who was using this expensive camera. When this guy did his presentation, I was coming after him. I just said to myself, there's no point. If you see the big cameras this guy was doing his presentation with, he sat down on a chair like a director. You know, he recorded himself. These guys asked for a presentation. They gave both of us 5 minutes. His own 5 minutes presentation, he sat down, talked about it, showed clips of what he has done. He was talking in there. The guy looked like he had made it the way he sat down. I just said, what's the point? I can't compete with this guy. But what I did, yeah, that's my time up. But what I did was, you know the first video I showed you guys that had me and all that stuff? So I did a 90 seconds video of everything that I do. And then I spoke for 3 minutes about some of the things that I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, I was the one that was called back. And the lady, I asked her, I'm like, but this other guy did such a great job. Why am I the one you called back? She said, I had ideas of things that I wanted to do. When I saw your show reel, some of the things that we're thinking about doing, I saw that you were doing them already. So you quickly went straight to the point that, oh, I'm doing this, and you showed me. This guy was talking about, he spent time talking about his achievements and showed behind the scene footage. I just went straight to show the things that I have done. The same way I captured most of you, that's what I did, and I did that presentation. Believe it or not, that company is Walt Disney. Spirit of excellence and be passionate. Do it over and over and over and over again, because the more you get better, it will always reflect in your work. Thank you.
Thank you, David. From the city of Kaduna to Walt Disney. That's a huge leap. You may be seated. Well, I hope you learned something. You might not be into photography and all of that, but honestly, just hearing our facilitators speak, something definitely is flowing to you. And the beauty of David's story is that it's traceable. You can take it right to his beginnings. And it's talking about very expensive equipment that is buying. He didn't start there. And he said that everybody should start where they are. We all can start where we are. Don't get intimidated by big numbers. Some people just switch off. One of the things, and the media department in this house would always tell you about me, one of the things about me is I will make sure that you use what you have to achieve results that are even beyond what is achievable. We start from there. They know here you can't just say, oh, we need a $10,000 camera. The one you are using, use it. Adjust the light, open the iris. You know, let's push it to its limits. Most of us use phones, and we only use 20% of the functionality of the phones. We've never tried out new things with it. We've never recorded something in broad daylight, recorded it in a room, recorded it in the evening, in the morning, just to get different feels. And you must learn to experiment. You must learn to try things out. Many people I meet don't want to try things out. You must learn to try and try and try and experiment. It's a 26-year journey he's speaking about. And someone will wake up and say, by tomorrow, I'll be talking to Walt Disney. You're going to have to pay your dues. We're going to be going on a break, and after that, Kunle Shorinyo is going to come to take that last session. Is one you cannot afford to miss out on. He'll be here today to take the last session. He'll be here tomorrow. And other facilitators are going to be joining. And at the end of today's sessions, there's going to be a networking time. So there's going to be a networking time. We've not been able to take questions from anyone, but we're going to do that at the end. For those who are still available, we'll be able to take their questions. And Kunle is going to be speaking on the disruptive culture and the entrepreneur. The disruptive culture and the entrepreneur. So break is going to be now. It's raining. We're limited in how far we can go. There are food vendors that are providing food at a price, and it's going to be available. If you go through that door, you would find them there. It's at a cost. I wish we could have done it free, but the concert itself is, not the concert, the summit itself is free. So there are food vendors. You can buy a meal or whatever it is, and they are fairly priced. Lunch will be just for about 20 minutes, and then we'd have everybody back. So it's going to be a very, very quick lunch. In closing these segments, one thing that I got again from what David shared is that everybody has a story to tell. You have a story. Your story may be about how to make ogbono soup. That's a story. And you can capture that and push it out there, and you become a content creator. Today, when I'm looking for answers to solutions, answers to problems, I just go on YouTube. If I want to buy a microphone, I go on YouTube. And I go see 10 best microphones, and people have done the work. They bought the 10. They tested it out just like you were sharing. For anything you want to get, anything, it's out there. So why don't you as well, begin to look inward and become a creator that will deploy tools out there that would help people. Even if all you have to your credit is how to speak well or how to speak English properly, there's somebody out there who wants to learn. So it may be braiding hair. I've never seen a video on braiding hair. I don't know if there is, but you say that's not my field, so I don't check. But you may braid your hair in a particular way, and you can push out content. And what is most important is that there are opportunities to monetize it so that you can earn money from it. Everybody here is a content creator. We just need to know what's on the inside of us and be able to deploy it. So we're going to go on break right now. Aundona is making an announcement that we need to pay attention to. So Aundona, make that announcement and let's respond to it, and then we'll go on our break.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the break is going to be just for 30 minutes. And quickly, we'll need you to do this, just like we did on Sunday. For those of you who are in church on Sunday, we need you to take selfies, all right? Take selfies and post them on Twitter, okay? There are available Twitter handles on screen. Post them on Twitter, okay? Let's push this out as much as we can, okay? Please. I need you to start doing, let's do it, okay? Let's do it as much as you can right now. Take pictures of yourself, selfies.
Take a selfie.
Take a selfie.
Can do a quick one, get the best pose possible.
I want to see who will run forward and take a picture with David Ayeni or any of our facilitators.
Yeah.
Can you do that? You can use the following hashtags, okay?
Only the bold and daring. and with Pastor Wale too.
You can take a selfie with somebody who is sitting close to you. Okay, so maybe I have to put a fee to that. All right, that's okay. Let's go on a break now. Break for 30 minutes and we'll be back in a bit.
So take your selfies, use the social media handles and post it. Facebook, Twitter, and all the platforms. Instagram. And if you dare to do a TikTok, that's good. So we'll be back at 1:30. 1:30. If you want to stay in the hall, that's fine. and we'll take the last session before the networking sessions.